This is my final project for social psychology class. Chapter 1. What is social psychology? It means our cognition, emotions, and behaviors are affected by others or the hypothetical presence of others. We take a social psychology class to jettison assumptions or intuition about human behaviors and replace our assumptions with scientific research. Chapter 2. Social cognition. What is social cognition? It means much of how we feel about the world or social affairs is the aftermath of socialization. For example, I, as a multilingual person, sometimes confront incorrect translations, so I know that misinterpreting our languages can be a lesson in acquiring social cognition. What does our imperfect social cognition make us do? Humans are cognitive misers. Humans have limited information processing, so we are prone to simplifying complex information via shortcuts or heuristics. For example, many Americans think plane crashes are more prevalent than they actually are because the availability heuristic is why recent news about plane crashes may pop up in their memories, which makes them exaggerate its prevalence. How is egocentrism central to human social cognition? Egocentrism means humans are prone to assuming other people feel the same as they do. For example, when I was in middle school, many teenage girls stared in the mirror while using lipsticks because they greatly exaggerate the likelihood of their friends spotting any flaws around their lips. Although humans of any age can be egocentric, teenagers are more prone to this spotlight effect, and this is why the onset of the disorder called social phobia occurs during the teenage years. Chapter 3. Justification. What is justification? It means to attach the rationale behind why we behaved or thought in that manner. Humans justify their cognition or behaviors because they invent a logical narrative while making others think they are good. Humans seek justification to cope with Leon Festinger's cognitive dissonance as well. Nevertheless, humans normally do not remember all the incidents of their cognitive dissonances because we minimize our dissonances very unconsciously even around 3 years of age. What is irrevocability? Irrevocability means I cannot cancel what I did afterwards, so I will need to cope with cognitive dissonance. For example, right after buying my Skechers exercise shoes at a somewhat expensive price, I justified it by admitting that I already had one pair of Adidas shoes at home, and all other brands of exercise shoes were more expensive. More importantly, buying this got me out of the paradox of choice because looking for more shoes for comparison will make me indecisive. Therefore, irrevocability made me maximize my Skechers shoes while minimizing the advantages of all other shoes I could have bought. Chapter 4. Conformity. What is conformity? Whether in real life or in our imagination, we tend to shift our stances or behaviors to not stick out from a person or a group. This was scientifically validated by evolutionary psychologists. Another logic behind why we love conformists more than nonconformists is that mirror neurons are correlated but not imposing causation to empathy. Our faces portray pain when we do not conform. On top of that, neurological activities also occur. What are some examples of conformity? My first example is groupthink, which means being agreeable with group members and suppressing one's ability to decide for himself or herself. I witnessed groupthink when I was coerced into a high school Bible class where a Bible teacher inquired all of us if it is better to randomly memorize Bible verses or actually interpret the meanings of those verses we memorized for weekly quizzes. He decided to have us memorize those verses for weekly quizzes simply because no student insisted on the value of interpreting Bible verses. Therefore, up to this day, none of the students enhanced their metacognition, admitting that these students thought they can passively get A's for their decision that de-emphasized how much they devoted to their private high school tuition. My second example is social learning. It means picking up how to behave by gazing at others. I witnessed social learning when my cat attempted to push the door with her own tiny hands to get out of her room, right after she discovered that I can easily open the door with my hands. My third example is the chameleon effect. This occurred when I was in my middle school's restroom when a girl touched her face and another girl touched her face as well. I touched my face, but I definitely did not do it with an explicit desire to conform because there will be a backfire effect if I do it unnaturally. How did researchers discover conformity? Solomon Asch line experiment was included in nearly all of my previous psychology books because researchers were shocked by the truth that they conform even if they initially thought they would not conform. Chapter 5, Propaganda and Persuasion. Effects of the modern media landscape. Many of my friends seek information on the US president, nearby restaurants, trending games, and digital art on their iPhones. I personally got my first iPhone back in 2012, but I intentionally refrained from using my iPhone in the streets or classrooms. Therefore, I decreased the likelihood of witnessing self-centeredness, addiction, and unhealthy social comparison. I discovered that it is easier to hold meaningful conversations with my friends in the absence of iPhones. Besides hindering our ability to concentrate, I discovered that the media makes us believe that the crime rate is increasing in America by putting violent news at the front for the number of viewers to skyrocket. But the media is incorrect. It simply increases citizens' feelings of worries, depression, and anger. Persuasion. Persuasion means to shift that person's beliefs. Some of us are more easily persuaded than others. For example, if a celebrity commits suicide, many of my friends who feel emotionally bonded to the celebrity might also commit suicide because of a phenomenon called emotional contagion. This effect of emotional contagion can be overcome if the media emphasizes that suicide is not a solution to adversities. It is the portrayal of suicide as a shortcut to escape life that actually increases the number of suicides. Those who think they are immune to persuasion are paradoxically likely to have biased blind spots because they overlook the truth that the media and Google search engines already filter out which information they will come across. Therefore, if the media portrays undesirable or disagreeable information, people tend to reply offensively or look for flaws in logic to refute whoever wrote it. On the contrary, if the media portrays information that they already agree with, they assume whoever wrote it must hold credentials or expertise without skepticism. The downside the media is that it is increasingly arduous to distinguish where the information is from or who distributed the information. How do we persuade more effectively? Compared to those who went to graduate schools, uneducated citizens are more likely to fall victim to persuasion, and it is easier to persuade when they do not know they are targets of persuasion. There are two routes to persuasion. The first is the central route to persuasion, which means to be persuaded by fast and deliberate weighing of the pros and cons. In contrast, the peripheral route to persuasion means to be persuaded by unrelated cues. For example, if I join KSU because I research how worthy it is to get a BS degree in psychology at KSU without believing everything that was advertised, this would constitute the central route to persuasion. Nevertheless, if I joined KSU simply because KSU gifted me a t-shirt right before the National College Decision Day of May 1, this would constitute the peripheral route to persuasion. Propaganda versus education. Some citizens might feel certain information are propaganda whereas others might feel the same information are educational. For example, my right-wing friends gravitate toward Fox News, but my left-wing friends gravitate toward CNN because our confirmation bias is why we seek information that confirms our beliefs. I personally witnessed Donald Trump's propaganda when he blamed immigrants for crimes and the shortage of workplaces for white Americans. This propaganda was a powerful persuasion tactic because making Americans hate immigrants hindered Hillary Clinton's persuasiveness in 2016. Chapter 6: Human Aggression. What makes human aggression distinct from animal aggression? My cat only harms the visitors at my house if she thinks they will steal her salmon. But I witnessed humans can harm other humans or even objects, even if others or objects had nothing to do with their anger. For example, I knew of a girl named Mary who used verbal aggression by claiming that I should go to psychological counseling by falsely twisting that something must be going on with me when I was victimized by all girls who were spreading rumors by making illusory associations between my disabilities and my character. Apparently, other girls get to apply justification of cruelty, so if I am victimized, they also apply the bystander effect to make it seem I have done something to be bullied when I have no control over my disabled appearance. Chapter 7: Prejudice. What is prejudice and how does it form? Prejudice can be cognitive, emotional, and behavioral. Examples of identities that make me a target of prejudice are disabilities, race, gender, and appearance. Pertaining to cognition, people form stereotypes. Pertaining to emotions, people have gut feelings and hatred. Pertaining to behaviors, people discriminate against certain groups. My example of intersectionality is that I'm not a pure white woman, but my appearance and disabilities make me look even more deviant than non-disabled people of any race. Therefore, I always have to be twice kinder to overcome their first impressions of me. How can we increase diversity or modify prejudice? The contact hypothesis means to meet that person more frequently so that negative cognition or emotion would decrease. For example, I personally witnessed some of my white American friends who were initially unwilling to meet Muslim women in hijabs. But after all of us met together for cooperative activities such as shopping or trying out Middle Eastern foods, I feel my white American friends became less prejudiced now than before. They used to think Muslims are terrorists or criminals. Chapter 8: Liking, Loving, and Connecting. What makes us like each other initially? Proximity. My best friend of 9 years, Diana, became my friend by simply sitting next to me in a personal management class when she transferred in as a new student for middle school. We are proximal because the campus was small with 200 students, which permitted us to have repeated exposure. Similarity. Again, my best friend Diana is similar to me. For example, both Diana and I love cutting bangs by ourselves at home, not at hair salons. Both Diana and I are academic perfectionists. Both Diana and I love the ocean. What are some controversies in impression formations? The pratfall effect. As a lifelong musician myself, I have witnessed the pratfall effect in orchestras where another girl named Carmen was disliked by orchestra members because Carmen always seemed to be perfect and bragged about herself during flute practices. In contrast, orchestra members truly liked me because they could sometimes witness me running out of breath, which induced awkward sounds from my flute. This flaw made them feel comfortable without comparing themselves to me or deflating themselves. On the opposite spectrum, a girl named Daniela was not a lifelong musician and frequently clicked incorrect buttons on the flute. So orchestra members picked up the impression that she is even less capable than she actually is. The gain-loss theory. I'm more excited about how Hee-won, who initially was ambivalent or uncertain about uncertain about me back in high school. He recently conveyed she likes a current version of me compared to how I do not feel much excitement around Diana, who always liked me as soon as she transferred into my middle school. How do we intensify liking? The belief of being liked by that person. I started to like my female Italian friend named Raffaella because she spread positive words about me to her own friends at a public dancing event, which in return made her friends like my dispositions. Praise. I praise my own music student named Amber because she will feel like our music lessons are likable. Nevertheless, I do not praise her too much because I want to remain genuine. How do we make liking reciprocal, not one-sided? Exchange relationships. When I meet new people, my first day always entails giving a gift or doing favors for them because I feel I should not be the one to receive more than I give to them. For example, if my Taiwanese friend named Jenny bought a cheesecake for me at Starbucks, I feel it would be a social norm for me to buy a cake for her. Communal relationships. My friend Lillian and I recently entered communal relationships after approximately 9 months of exchange relationships. Entering communal relationships means that we meet each other's needs without calculating who did more things. What is love and how does it occur? Non-arranged marriages. Because I am not an Indian, my culture fosters non-arranged marriages. For example, my father and mother met each other on the age of 24 and got married a few years later. This means they did not need their parents to approve of my father or mother. Passionate love. Their phase of passionate love occurred when my mother got pregnant and my father had intense happiness about it being an underweight girl, which was me. They were excited to travel to approximately 20 countries because their euphoria made them curious about what was ahead of them. This phase rapidly faded during my childhood. What are additional traits within friendships? Authenticity. Diana and I vent to each other because we do not need to filter ourselves. For example, Diana disclosed that she recently got a psychiatrist for her anxiety and depression. Although I personally do not have any anxiety, I do my best to hear about her symptoms because she feels she cannot be authentic with other friends who might stigmatize her. Thank you for listening. This is the end of my social psychology final project.